As Kyle had said, and thank you for that great introduction, Kyle. My name is Tim Barklage. I'm with Better Life. We started Better Life in 2008. Before I started Better Life, I was developing hosted IT infrastructure products. Now, try explaining that one to your grandparents, right? While the product was complicated, the concept was pretty simple. So, you basically found a need, developed a product, and sold it to somebody. My business partner, Kevin, he's a formulation chemist, and while he was developing consumer packaged goods before, neither of us had any experience at all of bringing products to market. So, as I'm sure many of you have already experienced, the CPG web is unlike any other, and it's a mysterious web that's kind of hard to unravel. So that kind of brings us to the, well, actually I want to say this first. So one of the things I love about consumer packaged goods is they're tangible. You can actually touch them, unlike hosted IT infrastructure products. So these are our products, and we brought some for everybody to try out in little 2-ounce sizes. So if you're flying, you can get them through TSA. But that's one of the things I love about the industry, and probably like many of you, I started this company and I co-founded this company because we saw a void in the marketplace. So as new parents, my wife and I, Nancy, were having dinner with Kevin and his wife, and we both had young toddlers at the time, and they're crawling around, getting into everything, and what we were talking about was locking up all the stuff that they can get into, and one of those things was cleaning products. And we said, well, hey, wait a second, we're buying these green products. And Kevin said, well, they're really not that safe, and you still need to lock them up, and all they're really doing is diluting the products down. I don't know if any of you get into natural stuff, but there's a saying in the natural world, which is more dilution equals less pollution, and it doesn't necessarily mean that the products are safe, and it doesn't mean they're going to work better, obviously. So, he was kind of making fun of Nancy for spending extra money on products that really weren't accomplishing what we were trying to do. And as part of that, my wife has always been one to challenge people, and she said, smarty pants, if you're so smart, you're always talking about how you can make anything in the world, why don't you make something better? And so a couple of weeks later, a mason jar filled with mysterious liquid, and unfortunately it wasn't moonshine, showed up at our doorstep. And Kevin said, hey, I've created something completely from plants, but I think it works really well. Give it a try and let me know what you think. So that's what we did. We gave it a try, and that was kind of like, the aha moment that we've all had, right? We found a product that was meeting our needs that we were looking for. That void in the marketplace was all of a sudden gone because it truly was holistically safe, which meant that we can use it around our kids and pets. It meant that unlike other products, this is the ironic thing about cleaning products. A lot of them are actually damaging the surfaces as you're cleaning them, right? They're damaging the finishes on your wood floor, your granite countertops, everything like that. So we had a product that was safe for around our kids and pets, safe for the surfaces in our home. And when you do those things, they're environmentally friendly as well. So we thought, wow, this is really something. We might need to go with this. And then that's when the second part of the story really started to evolve. And when we found that this product was actually working better than the conventional brands that were out there, it really started to come together. And that moment, which really was just a moment of clarity, if you will, but not a whole lot of thought put into it, we developed our message, which was safe products that exceed expectations from a performance standpoint. And everything that we do from that day to this day and beyond is going to be based on that. So we never, ever, ever release a product unless it can meet or exceed the performance standards set by the conventional equivalent. So we had our story. Now, I don't know how many of you love to walk down the cleaning aisle in your local grocery store or mass marketer, but it's a pretty dreary place, right? Everything looks the same, and it smells bad, and all the bottles are just obnoxious. And so we thought, all right, here's an opportunity to also differentiate ourselves. And so what we decided to do was create cleaning products that didn't look like cleaning products. And we decided to put some whimsy into it. And we used bright colors, bottles that typically weren't used in cleaning products. And we came up with names like Whatever for our all-purpose cleaner, because you can use it on whatever. And I Can See Clearly Wow for our glass cleaner. Still haven't figured that one out, but it sounds fun. So that's kind of what we did. So the next steps were we got some prototypes together, and we took them into our local Whole Foods market, right? So we had one in St. Louis at the time, with the second one on the way, and amazingly enough, they said, hey, this is really great. We like this. We'll take it. And so they were opening up a second store in June of 2008. And they said, well, you guys take some time, get your product developed, and we'll launch together on June 26th of 2008. So we got our suppliers lined up, we got our contract packager lined up, we got our branding done, we got our website done, all of those things, right? And we were naive enough to say, since we've got these 2 Whole Foods stores, let's quit our jobs. And so that's what we did. And so that was Friday the 13th of June 2008. My son Harris, our second child, was born on Sunday, June 15th. And then that next week, I had no job, I had no income, and I was running a consumer products company competing against some of the biggest multinationals on the entire planet. Very smart. And nobody laughed at that because you're all believers in what you're doing. So I like that. So, you know, this is what it's all about here. So after we got the 2 Whole Foods stores rolling, we quickly realized that we couldn't support ourselves and we couldn't leverage that success with those 2 stores to convince other retailers to buy our product. So it was a tough couple of years. I think our first 6 months, we made $35,000. And then our first full year of business, which was 2009, I think we were just over $130,000. And we did not pay ourselves a dime until 3.5 years into it. And by not paying ourselves a dime, I'm not using distributions as, you know, oh, we didn't compensate ourselves. No, literally, we did not pay ourselves a dime. My wife, Nancy, was basically working full-time for the business, and then she would work till 2 in the morning, waiting tables at a pizza restaurant. And that's how we supported ourselves and 2 kids and our savings. So it was getting rough. And what kept us going was that we knew we had a product that was superior in so many ways. What we lacked in experience and money, we did have in a true belief in this is something that we had to do. So that's what really drove us. I did lose a lot of weight during that time, and it wasn't by choice. I will preface what I said with, you know, we were lucky enough to find an angel investor during this time who took a 10% equity stake in our business and, you know, funded some operations, and you know, it was enough to kind of keep the ship afloat. So you're all probably wondering, well, what was the breakthrough moment? Before I go there, I'll say that we had no idea about distributors, about brokers, about anything. So we're trying to learn this stuff on the fly. We didn't have enough money to do any of this, and so what we finally were able to do is meet with a small distributor, a regional distributor, food distributor up in the Northeast. And they were kind enough to take our product in on, you know, as a pioneering brand. And what we did is we really appreciated this opportunity, and we learned to grow with them. And they taught us, they were patient enough to take us to CPG school, okay? I didn't have the benefit of coming here when I was in that stage, but they patiently answered all of our questions. But during all this time, I had a goal, and the goal was I want to be in Whole Foods nationally, and that was how I began every day and ended every day. And I think it's really important to have some sort of goal like that you know will be a major milestone for your business. So that was ours. And so while we were kind of growing with this distributor's little, their customer base, I was also bugging my friend Doris, who I'm still dear friends with to this day, about Whole Foods. She finally got sick of hearing from me about Whole Foods, and she introduced me to the director of global purchasing and at Whole Foods. And for some reason, he ended up taking a meeting with me. And we hit it off, even though, nothing came of the meeting. We planted the seed. Well, 6 months later, I was able to get one of the 11 Whole Foods regions. And that was a big moment for us. And then the next year after that, we got the unheard of ability to be in Whole Foods nationally. And so that's when things opened up for us. So, we went from not knowing what we're doing to having this now contract with Whole Foods nationally. And one of the things that we decided to do, which was really an important decision for us, was to not leverage that opportunity and go out and try to sign up another million retailers. What we decided to do instead was to hire a network of brokers that we could grow our natural business with versus trying to go out and get Kroger or Safeway or somebody like that, right? So we hired a whole group of natural regional brokers. There's a couple ways that you can hire brokers, either on a national basis or on a regional basis. We took the regional route. I'm not saying that that's necessarily the right route to take, but we felt that we would need to spend our precious little bit of management time and spend it with them versus going out and trying just to sell more. And for us, that was the right answer, because what we could do is we could grow that natural foundation. I think that there's two ways you can basically launch a CPG brand, two basic paths you can take. One is to raise a whole bunch of money, hire a bunch of expertise, and do the old spaghetti test, right? If it sticks against the wall, it's good. If it's not, it's dead. A lot of companies find that they can find success in this way, but they're usually started by people who've done it before. And a lot of other companies find that there's not the opportunity to really mature your brand attributes and understand how to turn those into a competitive advantage. So obviously we took the grassroots approach, and that's what we've continued to do. So anyway, we spent the time, developed the broker network, developed the distributor network, and then after we got our natural business underway, we went to the conventional grocery stores. And then we've just kind of grown from there. So last year, we got put into 25% of the Target stores. We decided we're going to go after mass in 2014. We were able to achieve that goal. This year, we wanted to get into drug. So we got into 400 or so Walgreens and Duane Reade stores. Next year, we've got our next channel strategy. And that's how we've kind of done it all along. One of the other aspects I think is really important is your online presence. In the early stages, we found that online retailers were much more friendly to taking our products on. And there's a reason for that. There's a lot less risk for them, typically. And the great thing about online retailers is that you get immediate feedback on how well your product's doing with the consumer. Back in 2008, we launched our website as an informational-only website, all right? If you can imagine, 7 years ago, almost all shopping carts were completely customized, and they were really expensive to build and really expensive to maintain. So, our website was an informational-only website, so we relied on partner e-commerce groups. Now, of course, you can, basically get a Shopify site for free and have a really powerful shopping cart And that's something that you should really consider using to your advantage if you're not already, which is testing new products, testing new ideas, testing new marketing, and figuring out what's resonating with the customer. Now, of course, that's easier said than done because driving traffic to your site is kind of an art on its own, right? But luckily for us, as Kyle had mentioned, we got a big boost with Shark Tank and being able to get onto Shark Tank. And that was a huge boon for web traffic, and we've been able to sustain that over the long term. So, anybody want to hear about Shark Tank? All right, okay. Usually people do. Okay, I can't tell you all the details because they make you sign your life away. In fact, I think in the contract it says they own the rights to my image in the universe in perpetuity. So when Matt Damon was on Mars, they own that. But one of the things about Shark Tank is, of course, it's an incredible, incredible opportunity. There's a reason why it's most entrepreneurs' dreams to get onto Shark Tank. And the reason why is because when else are you going to be able to expose your brand to 3 million people in a second, okay? It amazed me how many people that I met on the set that didn't understand that and went in there just kind of, I'll wing it. We'll see what happens. Let me tell you, preparation is key. So if you get the opportunity to be on Shark Tank, prepare. If you think there's something more important going on in your business than spending the time to get your pitch absolutely perfect, you're fooling yourself, right? This is an opportunity to get your brand in front of 3 million people in 1 second and then all the reruns forever. So spend the time and prepare if you get the opportunity. The other thing that a lot of people don't recognize is that you can become a student of the sharks. They know nothing about you, but you can find a whole lot about them. You can figure out what questions they're going to ask by watching all the reruns, how they ask the questions, how they react to things. So you really can become a student and gain the upper hand in the negotiation, and that's because you can control the conversation. How many times have you seen somebody, they're talking, they flub their response, and then the conversation goes sideways, and they never recover. So if you can control the conversation, your chances of success are much better. The other thing, of course, is just know your numbers. Again, learn from the mistakes of others. You go in there and people don't know their gross margin, they don't know their profitability, and it just all ends up in a disaster. The thing about Shark Tank is, for us, it was nothing but a positive experience. We found that there was no negatives out of it in any way whatsoever. So if you have the opportunity, I'd highly encourage you to try to get your product on the show and consider doing it. How am I doing on time? Oh, okay, perfect. So I want to talk a little bit about talking to buyers. And these are just going to be a couple of little things that, maybe there's some wisdom in it, but, just things that I remember when I was first getting in front of the buyers and things that you can take from that. So first and foremost, be confident in yourself and your products. But more importantly, realize that it's your job not to convince the buyer of the attributes of your products. That's what you do with the consumer, right? For the buyer, what you need to do is convince them that you're going to be able to move the products off their shelf, okay? So we all, as entrepreneurs, fall in love with our products. But we forget the most important aspect of it is that in the CPG world, it's moving products off the shelf. If you're not selling them on your own website, your job is to sell them for somebody else. And so you can't lose sight of that. And you can't get caught up in your own love story. You have to convince that buyer that you're going to be able to do something for them. The other thing is go in there with a humble attitude of every meeting being able to learn. if you can go into a meeting and not be disappointed if you don't get the purchase order, but walk out of that meeting having learned something, how you're going to approach it next time, how you're going to learn your pitch, or refine your pitch, you've really gained a whole ton out of that meeting, even if you flew across the country and walked away without a purchase order, and you've planted an important seed. One of the other things, though, that was hard for me was not trying to over-exaggerate what we were doing, and not going into there and saying, yeah, we're in Whole Foods and we're moving this many this many units per week, and what you're not telling them is you have 2 stores. Not that I ever did that or anything. So no, just be transparent, be altruistic, and then the other thing is just follow up your appointments with a prompt, courteous follow-up. Take what you learned from the meeting and say, here's what I learned, and here's how I'm going to help you move these products off of your shelf. And just, again, going back to your job's to sell the products for them and make them successful. All right, I'm going to close with some lessons learned, and if we have a couple more minutes, I'm happy to answer any questions. But from a lessons learned standpoint, one of the biggest things that I'll go back to before when I was talking about from my experience with brokers is that be kind and courteous to the brokers that you hire and you end up working with. You have to realize that for most brokers, they have 1, 2, or 3 brands that make up 80% of their revenue, right? Everybody else is in the bottom 20%, and they don't care if that bottom 20% you're making them $100 a month or $1,000 a month. What your job is to do is to get an inordinate proportion of their time dedicated to your brand. And again, it's not about your product, it's about you as a person and how you treat your brokers. And if they like you, they're going to work hard for you. If they don't like you, they're not going to work hard for you. I can tell you this from experience after experience after experience. You have somebody with a big brand, they don't like the person because they treat them poorly, they're not working hard for them. You've got a little tiny brand that is up and coming, and you treat them with dignity and the respect that they deserve and know that you're not the most important person on the planet, you're going to get their returns paid back in dividends. It's really crucial if you're working with brokers that you understand the dynamics of that relationship. The third thing is, or I guess the second, I must have forgotten the first one. Get your legal stuff in order in the earliest stages that you can. What I like to say is pretend like you're going to sell your company for your dream amount tomorrow and make sure your legal documents reflect that. This advice is given to me over and over and over and over again, and I'm going to continue to regurgitate it, and you've probably heard it before, but don't fool yourself into thinking that you don't have the time, you don't have the money, or that you don't want to lose the momentum with your other shareholders or partners or stakeholders. Believe me, now's the time to get that house in order, because when you are selling it for $100 million, the chances of you changing anything are slim to none. So, keep that in mind. And just, it's, advice you've probably heard before, but I just can't emphasize it enough. The other thing that, you need, sorry, I need to get my last point here. One of my favorite things I love listening to people say is don't listen to the haters, right? And I think that there's a ton of wisdom in that, but I think even more wisdom is in hear the haters and use that information to your advantage. It doesn't mean you have to, if people tell you you're crazy for starting this company, ask them, well, why do you think I'm crazy? And use that information to your advantage and refine your message. Don't just blow it off. There's some people that are just negative Nellies, right? And they're just gonna tell you you're nuts because they're jealous or whatever that might be. But a lot of times people are trying to give you feedback. It's not just done in the most constructive way. So keep an ear out and refine your message. The last thing is patience truly is a virtue. As entrepreneurs, we all have the bigger, faster, now mentality, right? Patience is such a hard thing to force yourself into. But I have found time and time and time again, especially in this industry, that patience leads you to better decisions, and patience keeps the world open to you in a way that it's going to lead you down to much, much, much more exciting and interesting paths than just focusing on the here and the now and the here and the now. So that's basically all I have because I've run out of time.
You were doing great, Tim. You were great. Listen, a couple of key questions
Yeah.
here. The first one, favorite shark?
Oh, gosh.
Give it to us. Come on. Who is nicest to you?
Well, the funny thing is that on the show, everybody is just absolutely the utmost professional. So everybody always wants to know about Kevin O'Leary, right?
Yeah.
Is he really that mean?
It's an act. It has to be an act. Come on.
So, he treats everyone with the utmost respect, except when he's got to get his soundbite in.
That's important. All right, it sounds like we had another overnight success story, right? 2008. It's only been seven years. That's not really bad. But you talked about not taking income. At what point did you realize I've got something? I know your heart was in it for months, then a year. When did you realize? What was the tipping point for you that you said, wow, I've really got something, and I think we can make a go of it?
Yeah, I think it was, the moment when we picked up that first Whole Foods region, and, that was the first substantial amount of distribution that we ever had. And I felt, we could really leverage that opportunity to build that distribution network that we had been missing before, and knew that was really the key to our success.
Yeah, as you guys have also heard, knowing your numbers is important, right? So it really is important. We talked about with Vanessa, right? Going into a buyer, going to Shark Tank, whatever the case may be, knowing your numbers is really important.